Hi class, how are you today? That's right. The learning target for today is to be able to solve for missing measures of a right triangle using the Pythagorean theorem. 3, you can solve for missing measures using the Pythagorean theorem. 2, you can solve for missing measures using the Pythagorean theorem if you know which sides are A, B, and C, like they're previously labeled. 1, you can solve for missing measures using the Pythagorean theorem when solving for the hypotenuse. And 0, you cannot solve for missing measures using the Pythagorean theorem when solving for the hypotenuse. All right, let's get started. All right, so first I'm going to talk about the parts of the right triangle. So in a right triangle, we have 3 sides. And in these sides, we have 2 legs and a hypotenuse. And we also have 3 angles. We have the 2 acute angles and we have the right angle, which, if you remember, is 90 degrees. We won't talk too much about the angles except for the fact that we have a 90-degree angle, because that's what makes a right triangle. And in this right triangle over here, it's the same thing, just the parts are flipped. It can confuse people, but the hypotenuse is always the one across from the 90-degree angle. So the hypotenuse is always over here. And then we also have our 2 legs still. And so when we're talking about the Pythagorean theorem, we usually go like this. We say A, B, and C, where A and B are the legs and C is the hypotenuse. It doesn't matter which one's A or which one's B, but it does matter which one's C. And then again over here, we've got A, B, and C. And the Pythagorean theorem is this: a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So one leg squared plus the other leg squared equals the hypotenuse squared. So we're going to be using this quite a lot when solving for missing sides of a right triangle. All right, now let's use the Pythagorean theorem. So we're going to solve for the missing side and round to the nearest hundredth. And it says round to the nearest hundredth, but if you don't need to round, then just give me the answer. But if it goes past 2 decimal places, then we round to the nearest hundredth. All right, so we're using the Pythagorean theorem here. So we've got a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So in this left one over here, we've got our A, B, and C. Remember, C being the hypotenuse. So we're going to do 7 squared plus 10 squared equals c squared. 7 squared is 49. 10 squared is 100. And that equals c squared. 49 plus 100 is 149. And that equals c squared. And then, since we have c squared, we need to take the square root of both sides. And so we say c is equal to the square root of 149. However, I wanted you to round to the nearest hundredth. So you put that into your calculator, and the square root of 149 rounds to 12.21. So my calculator says 12.2065556 but since we have 2 0 sits, the sits would round the 0 up to a 1. And since I asked to round to the nearest hundredth, that is our answer. All right, and for the next one, again, we've got our A, B, and C. Again, it doesn't matter which one is A or B, but it does matter which one is C. So, we're going to have A squared plus 12 squared equals 20 squared. So A squared plus 144 equals 400. Subtract 144 from both sides. And that will give us A squared equals 256. Take the square root of both sides. The square root of 256 is 16 exactly. So A equals 16. Don't have to do any rounding. All right, now time for the sponge activity. So for these three problems, I want you to solve for the missing side and round to the nearest hundredth. All right, that's it for this lesson. Once again, please make sure to take notes on the entire lesson. Attempt the sponge activity. Take a picture of everything. Submit it all to Google Classroom. And have a good night.